Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar. My name is Sebastian Bampton and I'm one of the business development managers at Your Overseas Home. Today we'll be chatting with Marina from Omaru Law about visas when buying in Cyprus. It's great to have you all with us, whether you're joining live or catching up on demand. Today's session in total will be around 30 minutes, so let's get going. If you do have a question throughout the session, please feel free to type your query into the questions tab on the right-hand side of the screen. Today, we may not have all the time to answer every single question, but we will send these onwards to Marina and the team at Omaru. So after the session, they can get back to you. If you need a reminder of anything that we've discussed today or want to share it with a family member or family friend, a replay will also be available on Your Overseas Home website to watch at your leisure. Marina, thank you so much for joining us. It'd be great if you could give us a quick intro onto yourself, who you are and how Omaru can help our viewers today.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Marina Omiru, partner and lawyer at Omiru and Omiru LLC, a law firm established back in 1974 with heritage in the provision of legal services, especially real estate, litigation, immigration law. And we are here today to speak about the residence permits of Cyprus and the procedure to buy a property here. So initially, we need to point out that British citizens who will visit Cyprus now and do not hold a residence document issued in Cyprus before Brexit are considered third country nationals. British nationals who wish to travel from to Cyprus, they are allowed to stay for a maximum of 19 days. If they wish to extend their stay in Cyprus for more than 90 days or relocate here, they will need to meet Cyprus immigration rules. There are different types of residency applications that allow a British national to extend his stay in Cyprus. These permits require you to have a place to live in Cyprus, whether renting out or buying a property. And I would like to point out that the permits that we're going to describe are for persons that have a stable and adequate income from abroad, and not for persons who wish to come to Cyprus for employment, since these persons need to apply for a work permit, which is different. So there are two main categories of residence permits: the temporary permits and the permanent residence permits. Their main difference is that, as their name suggests, the first one is temporary and is given for 1 year with the right to renew it, and the other one is given for an indefinite period. Now, the temporary residence permit, also known as pink slip, allows British nationals who wish to relocate in Cyprus or to stay here for more than 3 months to extend their stay in Cyprus. Spouses and children of the main applicant below the age of 18 can also apply as dependents. The permit is valid for 1 year and can be renewed on an annual basis. Holders of these permits are allowed to live in Cyprus as visitors without the right to work, and they cannot stay out of the country for more than 3 months continuously, as the permit will be cancelled. The granting of this permit requires existence of a bank account in Cyprus and a proof of stable and adequate income. Now there is also a new scheme which has been introduced in 2021, which is a digital nomad visa with a ceiling of 500 residence permits to be issued. The program is still valid, is still opened, and British nationals may also choose to apply for the Cyprus digital nomad visa, which will give them the right to reside temporarily in Cyprus. The main requirement is that the applicants shall perform their work remotely using telecommunications technology, or to be employed in a company registered abroad for which they can work location independently or to be self-employed, offering services remotely for clients located abroad. The applicants must also prove that they have stable and sufficient monthly net income of at least 3,500 euros. And the permit is valid for 1 year and can be renewed for further 2 years. Family members can also apply for the same period as the main applicant without the right to be employed or perform economic activities in Cyprus. Now we will proceed. Here is the tax advantages. Either by submitting for a temporary or a permanent residence permit, they are going to be considered Cyprus tax residents if the applicants stay in Cyprus for 1 or more periods that in total exceed 183 days within the same tax year. So they will have many tax benefits, which are going to explain in the later on. So now we'll proceed to the immigration permits for which are the permanent residence permits. There are 2 main categories: immigration permit under category F. Under this scheme, UK nationals who own or rent or will buy property in Cyprus, either a resale one or a brand new, and possess and have fully and freely at their disposal a secure annual income, high enough to give them a decent living in Cyprus, without having to engage in any business here in Cyprus, are allowed to apply for immigration permit under category F. The annual income that an applicant should have in order to apply for immigration permit under category F is at least 10,000 euro, and moreover at least 5,000 euro for every independent person, the spouse and children up to 18 years old. Applications are reviewed by the Immigration Control Board, and the Minister of Interior is going to grant the final approval. The thing with this category is that the examination and processing of the applications take longer than the immigration permit under Regulation 6.2, which is going to speak about this later. Is the time of the examination is around 18 months. But we also have the fast track procedure, which is a permanent resident permit under Regulation 6.2. Here, the UK nationals needs to invest at least 300,000 euro in order to meet the requirements and apply for this kind of resident permit. So the investors are allowed either to buy a house or apartment or 2 units from a development company, which should consent a first sale of at least 300,000 euro plus VAT, or to buy other types of real estate, such as offices, shops, hotels, or related estate developments, or a combination of these with a total value of 300,000 euro. This investment could also be a resale, or to invest at least 300,000 in the share capital of a company registered in Cyprus, having a proven physical presence in Cyprus and employing at least 5 people, or to invest at least 300,000 in units of Cyprus Investment Organization collective investments. Some other requirements must also be fulfilled. The examination processing for this kind of application is only around 2 to 3 months. And the spouses and children of the applicants below the age of 18 can also apply as dependents. The annual income required should be at least 30,000 euro for the main applicant, and moreover at least 5,000 euro for every independent person. Unmarried children between the ages of 18 and 25 years old who proved that they are students of tertiary education abroad and who are financially independent of the applicant can submit their own application without further investment, with the condition that the main applicant will present an additional annual income of 5,000 for each dependent child. And the third permit in that case is still valid even if the holders have exceeded the age of 25 years old, and even if they do not remain unmarried and or students or financial dependents of their parents. This does not apply to category F, described before. Since only children up to 18 years old are allowed to apply as dependents of the main applicant. So let's go back. An immigration permit under Regulation 6.2 may also be granted to the applicant's parents and parents-in-law with the condition that the main applicant will present only an additional amount of 80,000 euro per annum for each dependent parent. These permits, category F and the permit under Regulation 6.2, are granted for a lifetime, for an indefinite period of time, but the applicant needs to travel to Cyprus if he's living abroad every 2 years in order for the permit to be valid and not to be cancelled. And the first year, which is going to acquire the resident, the first year from the approval of the application needs to visit Cyprus. It's important to mention here that the immigration permit holders will complete 5 years of legal residency in Cyprus are allowed to apply for Cyprus citizenship and receive a Cypriot passport. In such a case, the applicant must reside continuously in Cyprus during the 12 months preceding the date of the application. And another important thing to mention is that the permanent residence permit holders are allowed to enroll to the general healthcare system, which is Cyprus National Health Service, and is entitled to free or low-cost healthcare services and medicines. As we mentioned before, if the applicants receive temporary or permanent permits and reside in Cyprus for one or more periods that in total exceed 183 days within the same tax year, then they are going to be considered Cyprus tax residents as long as they are not tax residents in other country. Under certain criteria, they can also become tax residents in 60 days, but with some other criteria. This means that they will have several tax advantages due to their status as non-domiciled in Cyprus. For example, dividends and bank interest will be exempt from tax, except from a minimal charge of 2.65% for the general health system contribution. There is no estate duty or wealth or gift or inheritance tax, very low taxation on pension income received from abroad, with the first 3,420 euro per year being tax-free and the remainder subject to tax at only 5%. So yes, there are many governmental initiatives and schemes aiming to facilitate the relocation of individuals, and there are a few more, but today we concentrate to the main schemes and these programs. And now we're going to proceed to the real estate procedure and information around the real estate transactions. And being a former British colony, Cyprus' legal system is based on English common law principle. Since its independence in 1960, Cyprus has updated its legal system, introducing civil law principles, and therefore now the legal system of Cyprus is a mixture of both common law and civil law. Also, following its accession to EU, Cyprus' legal system has grown further, aligning with EU laws and regulations. Real estate market of Cyprus has proven resilient to COVID pandemic, as many individuals and businesses have during this period, decided to relocate to Cyprus, attracted by the warm temperatures, the outdoor lifestyle, and so the market is expected to grow further. In general, there is an increase in demand for real estate and a lot of potential for growth in the market. This is due also to an increase in tourists and investment in real estate. There has been an increase also in home sales and prices, and as well as the number of new construction projects. The market now is benefiting from an increasing population and tourist arrivals, as well as strong economic growth. So Cyprus is an ideal location for investment. Real estate in Cyprus is generally owned on a freehold basis. There are also some certain real estate developments located in special interest areas such as marinas, which may be sold on a long leasehold basis. Every interest or right over or affecting a movable property is registered and can be traced in the land registering district offices. This includes ownership, easements, privileges, rights of way, mortgages, encumbrances, contract of sale, etc. And all privately owned land has been effectively registered in land registry records with registration certificates, which is also known as title deeds. Title deeds actually serve as a proof of ownership. So the title deed containing information such as the owner's property size, location, and the land registry office reference number, an accompanying site plan that situates the plot on a map, and any easements or rights of way or other permanent rights in favor of or over the plot. The land and any buildings on it are registered together and are inseparable for title purposes. A holder of a valid title deed issued by the land registering department is protected against adverse possession or any other claims. Recently, land information, save details of ownership, of course, was made publicly available on the Land Registry Department online portal, enabling data collection as to the characteristics of each plot. But of course, other rights such as mortgages or encumbrances can only be discovered by a search in the land registry by the owner of the property or any authorized representative or any person interested in the land, for example, if he has any civil case against the owner of the land. Such rights and other interests are registered with the land registry, and their priority is fixed in accordance with the filing date of each right, interest, or charge. So now we're going to discuss about the permission that non-EU nationals need to obtain in order to acquire property in Cyprus. Non-European nationals or companies wishing to acquire immovable property in Cyprus shall obtain the permission of the Council of Ministers in order to register the immovable property in their name. However, such a permission is granted as a matter of course to bona fide purchasers to purchase an apartment, a house, or a building plot or land not exceeding approximately 4,000 square meters for the erection of only one house for use as a residence by the purchaser and his family. Since 2013, non-European nationals are now permitted to own up to 2 properties in Cyprus, which can be 2 residents or 1 resident and 1 shop with a floor area up to 100 square meters. Permission is granted for personal use and not for letting or commercial use. However, this rule is relaxed for international companies, which are permitted to acquire business premises as well as houses or flats as residences for their members or directors. Once the property has been registered in the purchase name, there is no further restriction, and the property may be sold or disposed of by will or other instrument. As we said before, any transfer of ownership must be recorded with the land registry department. Title is transferred to the buyer in accordance with the provisions of the contract of sale. For the purchaser's rights to be safeguarded, the duly executed stamped contract shall be deposited with the land registry for specific performance purposes. It is not obligatory to have a written contract of sale in order for a real estate transaction to take place or generally to register rights or interests over immovable property. But if they are not registered, there will be a secured. For example, the contract of sale is deposited with the land registry in order for the purchaser of the property to secure the remedy of specific performance, thus preventing the vendor from transferring the property elsewhere or charging it with any NQ price or memo for as long as the contract is valid and legally effective. If the vendor refuses to transfer the property, the purchaser may apply to the court for an order to transfer the property, which is a court that will demand the vendor to transfer the property. This is only available if you are going to deposit the contract to the land registry. The duly stamped copy of the contract must be deposited within 6 months to the land registry from the date of its execution. But you need to know that the procedure differs in cases where the sale transaction concerns land on which buildings or other structures will be affixed or on which such developments were recently completed and there is no yet an updated title deed which covers the new developments. In this case, the transfer of title deed cannot be effected immediately as we need to wait for the final approval to be issued and then to apply, the developer to apply for the division, to submit a division application in order for the updated title deed to be issued and cover also the buildings, the new buildings. So it's recommended that a prospective buyer appoint a lawyer who will draft or negotiate the terms and conditions of the contract of sale to verify the ownership and the status of the property, to check whether there are any NQ process or other charges on it, and verify whether the buildings have been constructed in accordance with the provisions of the planning permission and building permit. Because in order for a final approval to be issued, the development must be constructed in accordance with the provisions of the planning permit and building permit. A purchaser may also appoint an engineer to carry out structural or other surveys, or a surveyor to verify the market value of the property. Now we're going to talk about the taxes that a purchaser will pay in relation to the real estate transaction. The purchaser is liable to pay the stamp duty on the contract of sale and the transfer fees for the registration of the title deed in his name, and is also obliged to provide documents that justify his source of funds as per the provisions of the anti-money laundering regulations in order for the bank of the seller to accept the funds in Cyprus. The transfer fees are payable by the buyer to the land registry on the date of the transfer of the title deed in his name. The fee is usually calculated on the purchase price, but if the valuation department of the land registry decides that the market value of the property is higher than the purchase price at the moment of the purchase, land registry will impose transfer fees calculated on the market value of the property. You can see the applicable rates at the slides. The transfer fees, where applicable, are reduced by 50%. There is a 50% discount. If the property is in joint names, then the purchase value is divided into two portions, resulting in a reduced transfer fees. But transfer fees do not apply if the transaction is subject to VAT. Just to let you understand, resale properties are not subject to VAT, are subject to transfer fees. But the properties which are going to be sold for the first time are subject to VAT and not to transfer fees. So VAT is chargeable at the standard applicable rate, which is now 19%, on the first sale of new buildings only. So as we already told, no VAT is chargeable on subsequent sales, namely resale properties. A reduced rate of 5% VAT is applied if the property will be the owner's primary and main place of residence in Cyprus. This reduced rate is applied on the first 200 square meters and only on properties where their total coverage is up to 275 square meters. There are also stamp duty, which is for the legalization of the contract of sale, is payable on contracts of sale or any other document that concerns any property situated in Cyprus. And you can see the rates at the slides. There is a maximum cap of 20,000 euro per document, and the stamp duty needs to be paid within 13 days of the date of the signing of the contract of sale. And also there are the capital gains tax. This kind of taxes are usually paid by the seller, not the purchaser, for any disposal of property in Cyprus. Applies to direct and indirect disposals involving the property situated in Cyprus. It is imposed at the rate of 20% on gains from the disposal of immovable property. And however, profits from the sale of immovable property in Cyprus are not subject to income tax. However, if the seller has entered into a number of similar transactions and is considered as trading in land, income tax will be applicable instead of capital gains tax. So if an investor is intended to invest in immovable property in Cyprus with an intention to trade in land, it is preferable that he effects this through a legal entity, because the applicable corporation tax in Cyprus is one of the lowest in Europe, since profits of a Cyprus company are subject to tax at 12.5%. So in summary, you need to know that if you are planning to visit Cyprus for an investment, it is recommended to contact us before you travel here in order to inform you in advance about all the documents that you need to collect before your arrival in Cyprus, such as proof of residential address, marriage certificate, birth certificates for the children, proof of income, bank account statements, etc., which are required for the sales transaction, the source of funds document mentioned before, and also are required documents for the residency applications and for the opening of a bank account here in Cyprus. We will also inform you in advance for the estimated costs and expenses to conclude all the procedures. The procedure for purchase a property in Cyprus, a resale one, shouldn't take more than 1 week, 3 months, but provided that these kind of documents, the source of funds documents, are already collected and are available, and the purchase price funds are available. Also, it is important to mention that you can buy a property in Cyprus even if you are abroad by appointing us as your authorized representatives under a power of attorney executed in UK. That means that we can proceed on your behalf and sign the contract of sale, deposit it to the land registry for specific performance purposes, to accept transfer of the title deed of the property at the land registry on your behalf, to connect the utility bills of the property, etc. On the other hand, if you are planning to come and stay in Cyprus throughout the process of the transaction, you will need to extend your stay by applying initially for a temporary residence permit. And once you proceed to the purchase of a property, you can also apply for a permanent residence permit. So we are ready to support you throughout the purchase process, from the negotiations till the completion of the sale agreement, and guide you for anything related to the sales transaction, immigration permit application, tax residency applications, bank account opening. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Rina. That was really useful. I know there's a lot of content to cover there, but yeah, thank you so much. I know we have run slightly over, but there's been one question that's cropped up quite a few times in the chat function, and thank you so much to the audience for putting those questions forward. If I may just ask one question, Marina, to you. So a couple of clients have mentioned that they're from the UK, but their partner has an EU passport. What would that mean for them with their visa and residency?
If a spouse, excuse me, tell me again, if a spouse has a European passport?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, there is a procedure which it is more simple and can apply as a spouse of EU citizen, and the documents and the procedure is more simple and straightforward in comparison with the applications of temporary permits and the pink slip applications. So it's more easy.
Perfect. Good. That's good to hear. That's great. So I won't ask all the questions. There's quite a few, but we will send them across to you, Marina, after the virtual event for your team to follow up with them. But yeah, we do strongly recommend that you get in touch with Omaru Law directly to discuss your individual and unique requirements in more detail. And yeah, thank you to all the viewers for watching.
I'm just seeing now the questions. I can answer another one because I'm seeing here that they're asking about the mortgage, and it's important to mention about that foreigners, even if they don't have at the moment a permanent permit or temporary permit in Cyprus, they can apply for a mortgage, for a loan. They will need to contribute minimum 30%, and the bank will pay the remaining amount. So it's good for our entities to know that they can also get a loan to Cyprus and mortgage their property here.
Brilliant. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Marina. But yeah, as I said, we will send over those questions to you after the virtual event. So if anyone does have any more questions, please reach directly out to Marina or any of the team at Maru. But yeah, thank you so much again, Marina, and
Thank
also to the
you.
viewers
Thank you.
watching this session. We wish you all the best on your move overseas. We do also have various other resources available that we can help you with your buying journey, including guides and other sort of webinar recordings. So do take a look at our website. Before we finish, we'd also just like to invite you to join our next Your Overseas Home virtual event on November the 12th. Similar to this, it's all online. It's a chance to gather more information about all aspects of the buying process, but also interact with the experts that can help. So yeah, thanks again, and yeah, happy property hunting, and thanks, Marina.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.